and welcome to TCB 360 Smart Business Network for small businesses around the world. We're still in the midst of our special series shows. And if you're new, because we have a lot of new listeners over the holiday, this particular week, the last week of the year, I'm closing down on wonderful stories we can use as examples. So often we hear about billionaires and successful companies, and we forget that they were entrepreneurs working from home, small businesses, didn't have funding, and they persevered. They did a lot of extraordinary things. So a gift from me to all the small businesses that are listening around the world. It is all about you. You're going to watch me record the show. Give me a few seconds. Welcome. TCB 360. Your Smart Business Network. It's time to learn. Oh yeah, my glasses, they come on and off. For those that are viewing the show live on TCB 360 or on Ustream TV, you'll see me take my glasses on and off because when I talk, sometimes I don't see very clearly, or I don't think clear either, but it's all good. The glasses are on, the mic's on, and we have a wonderful show for you. When I say we, I talk about our entire network, our entire community. Today's show, and when I mention the name, don't go, I got it. I guarantee you there's a lot of aha moments, there's a lot of interesting areas you didn't know, but most importantly, the person I'm ready to share with you, I want you to put yourself in their shoes. I want you to just really, because small businesses, sometimes that pity party happens, sometimes we think, why isn't it working, what am I doing? And we're all in control of this. When something's not working and you keep bamming at it, you have to make sure you're bamming in the right direction. Perseverance is important, but you need to persevere in the right direction. How about that? You also need to have a real clear understanding of who you are and how often I share that. And some people say, well, it's business, spirituality, does it have anything to do with business? Well, it's all in one. If you are your business, the more you know about yourself, the more you know the kind of profile, the kind of characters, and your inabilities, and your strengths and weaknesses, all that stuff. You come clean, people. Come clean. Be authentic. Bring it to the table. I guarantee you, your thinking will soar. Life will be good. Even when you possibly may not generate the current revenue you're seeking, you feel so much better that you're authentic. And of course, leaders are learners, and learners are leaders. And lifetime learning is what it's all about. And constantly encourage us all, including myself. I'm all in it with you. Today's show, all about the masterful Henry Ford. Don't turn. I guarantee you, I'm going to share something you have never heard before. You know what I mean? So let's just sit back, relax yourself. It's not a marketing matrix. It's not something overly aggressive. We're not talking about new age brand development and framework. We're talking about Henry Ford. That's what we're doing. And this is how it plays out. We're all familiar with Henry Ford, and I'm assuming that most of you think that he actually invented the first car in America, which is not the case. And we're going to discuss that. But I'm also assuming that many of you think that he started from this little boy working on this car, and like so many do believe, they think that Henry Ford was successful in his 20s and in his 30s. So far from the truth. The guy couldn't pull it off. And it wasn't until he reached 42. Can you imagine? So many of us, even myself, I've worked at planting that seed. You know what I'm talking about? The metaphor, the bamboo. Got on my green hat for bamboo. And you have to have that. You have to put in the time to nurture. You have to put in the time. When we're young, we constantly thinking, I got it. We're jumping off the walls, energy, ideals are blowing and flying and so on, etc. And I'm not saying we won't have success. What I'm talking about is longevity in your success. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to develop an authentic legacy, something you can continue to build on. Nothing that you come up with this quick idea, it works for a couple of years, and guess what? Into the 15th year, you lose your shirt. Believe it or not, Henry Ford, if it wasn't for his son who saved him, I tell you, the lesson, it took a long time for him to learn it, and then he didn't remain authentic. He behaved in a way like a mechanic. Just keep fixing what you got. All right, it's time to get something new. Okay, let's dig into this story. Let's sink our teeth into it now. First, I want to share a cool quote with you. Remember a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I shared the quote of Walt Disney. And Walt Disney, his profile, his character, his essence is like a creator. And what he was known for saying, he said a lot of things. And one of the most popular things is that Walt Disney said, if you can't get a job, then start a business. How sweet and simple is that? So let me share with you what Sam Walton. If you don't know who Sam Walton is outside of the U.S., we have a wonderful store by the name of Walmart. And Sam Walton is the authentic owner and conceptualized the idea of Walmart. Now, globally, many of you may know because Walmarts are popping up all over the place on different little islands and countries and so on, etc. But he has, not to throw you too far, he has that smart horizontal distribution process that we may or may not talk about before the end of the year, but we are going to go into more about Sam Walton in 2 days, because first of the year, all said and done, he basically started the company that is now one of the largest companies in the United States. And this is what he says. He says, most everything I've done, I've copied from someone else. I get a kick out of that. I don't know why, but I'll tell you. You're going to notice in a minute. That's the personality of what we call a mechanic. And roll your sleeves up, but relax. I want you to roll your sleeves because I want you to feel like, oh yeah, I can do this too. But I want you to relax also and learn. Just relax and feel good. Henry Ford had a role model. Henry Ford was a little man. He had a role model. He had a mentor. Who was his role model? Who was his mentor? Thomas Edison. Oh yeah. Now I have to tell you something interesting. They had two opposite personalities. You could almost say between the two of them, they were bipolar, two opposites. One was a creator and liked to invent, like Thomas Edison, and he, did everything he could to perfect. And he also, I don't think Thomas Edison reached his real success until he was about 52 years old. But then you had, this gentleman that he's mentoring, his mentee, which was Henry Ford, and he liked not to invent, but to take things apart. I have to tell you a cute little story about Henry Ford. Henry Ford, his dad gave him a pocket watch when he was a kid, somewhere probably around the age of 12 or 15 years old. And a little later they came back and they said, Henry, where's the watch? And he had completely taken it apart. And that's that personality of a mechanic. They don't like to invent things, they like to take things apart. Now, if he would have kept to the reputation of his personality, of his profile, of his ethics, he clearly would have been a lot more successful much sooner in his life. That's what most behavioral experts would say. But of course, his mentor, which was the leader, which was like, well, build anything built. Let's create something and invent and be pioneers. Whatever the case may be. Actually, this is very interesting. Most people don't realize that Henry Ford actually worked for Thomas Edison. And Thomas Edison at the time had a company by the name of Edison Illusion Company, which eventually became the company General Electric. Now, General Electric is all over the world. And I'm going to date this. This is 1880. Pay close attention to the date. So it's 1880. It's the year 1880. Ford works for Edison, okay? And what he's looking for is, everybody's looking for the automobile industry to take off. And while trying to invent a car, listen, we're talking about 9 years later, in 1899, Thomas Edison thought he had the perfect design for a car. Remember, his mentor he works for, Thomas Edison, is an inventor, a pioneer, so he's going to try his hands at that. Even though he knows his authentic true being is that he's more of a mechanic. He likes to take things apart and put them back together. All of that being said, he tried to force what his mentor had taught him, force it into his true being. When the outcome came, he worked on the perfect design of the car. It's now 9 years later. It's 1899. He worked with some investors and he raised about $28,000. And the first time he takes a hit at it, he goes bankrupt. And then the second time he raised the money, he fails again. So two big failures. He started the concept in the 1880s. By 1899, he had two big failures. $28,000 people is a lot of money. The early models of the car Henry Ford was trying to design, they were way too expensive, and they had very limited success. Because of the expense, it was nothing you can do to really take it to a mass at that time, to a mass market. It needed to be affordable for consumers. And of course, the marketplace was beginning to get very cluttered with the idea of an affordable car and the idea of being competitive in the marketplace. So let's keep going. Ford keeps struggling. Now, of course, he perseveres. Yeah, and I'm telling you, I know what persevere is. A lot of people call this, well, you don't really understand. You better believe I understand. Of course. I've been there. Oh, yeah, I've had to learn from some of my mistakes, but it didn't take me a long time because I'm a lifetime learner, and I like to learn quick. Just a suggestion for some of you out there that's stuck on that page in your life. Learn fast and learn well. So here's what happened. Ford struggled in earlier years. He's out of his pocket. He's trying to come from idea to innovation into the market. And in 1905, he decides to change his approach. But notice how many years it took him. He started in 1880, and it took him until 1908 to change his approach. I don't get that. If some of you are stuck, remember, whatever idea, whatever product or service that you're offering, an ideal you're trying to build on and move it to a conception, to a product, it has to be a solvent for the customer. It has to solve the customer's problem. Everything we do, we're doing to say we want the people or clients to live the best life they can live. And I have the products or services or support or collaboration that help the clients and customers get to the next step. You know, that whole concept about giving, I have to tell you, I believe entrepreneurs are the greatest givers because that's what we do. We work to come up with products and services. We're not giving them away free, but we want to make sure we give human capital. That's what we're giving, that human capital. That's a big piece. It's a big piece of life. Okay, let's keep going. I digressed a little bit. Bear with me. I get so excited. I love this stuff. So, 1908, he decides, I'm going to change my approach. Remember, he was trying to be an inventor. He's changing his approach. This is what happened, people. He discovered a new, cheap, reliable steel alloy from France. In 1908, produced the Model T. Idea came from what? France. What did Sam Walton say to us? Hey, mostly everything that I've done, I've copied from someone. That is a quite common concept from people that have that mechanic kind of profile. Nothing wrong with it. You need a mechanic profile. You just need to know who you are. The true innovation of the Model T was the production. That is what Henry Ford discovered. That is his part of his historic legacy. Now, the core Model T, the alloy, steel alloy framework, that came from France. What he did was he discovered how to move and build the Model T, the production product, how to move these cars to mass production. Mass production does two things. One, it gets the car product out there quickly, but it also allows you to reduce the price of the car. The more you can produce, the price is going to go down. So here's what he did. He said, listen, he tied these ropes from car to car, and he started the first production line, and together he was able to speed up the automobile process. He also did something else very interesting. He painted all the cars black. Only color you can get is a black car. And the reason for that is because the black paint dried so quickly that it enabled him to produce even more cars. Oh yeah, it gets better. Like most mechanic personalities who succeed, the prices decrease, but then he increased the accessibility. The more the prices went down, the more people could afford it, so he controlled a broader piece of the market. Correct? That makes sense. Got it? If you can't see me, if you need to see this, then make sure if you're listening to the radio show, go to TCD360.com and check out the video. Because I'm using my hands a little bit here. And Ford made his Model T vehicles available for common man. Now, let's see how much you're learning here on the network. Common man. Let's say the adoption process. Don't go anywhere if you haven't heard this, because you need to know this. This is a mandatory, critical thing you need to know. It's not critical, mandatory. Remember, throughout the year, we discussed the adoption process. They're mavens, they're connectors, they're early adopters. Correct? Well, what he did was, he says, I'm not going to make this car for mavens. That's only a handful of people. Or connectors, that's just another handful. That's like less than 1% of the population. Yeah, mavens, 1%. Connectors, 2%. Oh yeah, I'm going to move to early adopters. Well, they can afford it too, but then they'll spread the word. And he was able to get into the larger, he targeted the larger percentage of the market that could afford it. Not the rich, but to make it for common man. A really smart move. Because what he did was, he could produce the car the fastest. It cost less because he produced the car the fastest. In 1908, when it launched, it cost $825. Okay? 10,000 automobiles were sold the first year. Right? The first year. And then what he did was he reinvented his new production facilities, which were located in Highland Park. And he produced the first tailor-made line. All right? And just to let you know how all these big names are sort of like coupled. You know, you find people with this calibrated energy almost in the same community. If you ever go back in history, it'll be interesting to know how did so many successful people come from such a little cluster of a community, of a town, or a country. So you have the connector with Thomas Edison, and now you have Henry Ford, which is considered one of our greatest businessmen over the last 75 years, even greater than Bill Gates, according to some experts. And then they developed this tailor-made production line called John D. Rockefeller, the industrial miracle of the age. We know who John D. Rockefeller is. He's America's first millionaire. Yeah. What deal maker? So listen up. This gets better. You think it just keeps getting better and better and better because Ford still exists today. No. He did break his neck. I'll give you a heads up on that. This is what took place. First year, 10,000 cars. He's in his flow. He's doing what he does well. Prices are falling. He increased sales 1 year later, 1910. In 1910, he sold 19,000 automobiles. Guess what? 2 years later, in 1912, he sold 78,000 automobiles. That's a lot of automobiles. Remember, in the U.S., wasn't that many people around. I mean, it was more than 70,000, but it wasn't like it is today. So, 308 million people. So that's a lot of the market. And now he's selling the car for $575, marked down just 4 years prior to that. It was $825. But he has this new line. He's producing. But listen to what I'm saying. Did you hear me mention anything about, besides him developing a state-of-the-art that distribution or production line system? You didn't hear me say anything about him adding anything into the car, did you? Maybe. Is that a problem? Think about it. If you put all of your time into the technology part of your product and distribution and how it's going to enter the market, you don't go back and make sure you adapt that product to support the needs of the customers. Listen up to what's going to happen. With a team of engineers focusing on his efficiency, Ford fine-tuned production started to break down. The black paint, you know it dried fast. That was something unique, leading to his famous phrase. Listen, he was running around boasting about, if any customer can have a car painted any color, they can, as long as it's black. I guess that was comedy back in that day. You look up, Ford had taken 48% of the U.S. market in auto parts. By 1924, there were 10 million Model T Fords that had rolled out his assembly line. But his story does not remain successful. Henry Ford's story is a classic story of how a person can generate wealth or create their wealth, and it resonates for a particular time. We often speak about every product and service as a time, a reason, and a season. And there is the reason we say that. Because people behave differently at different times of the year, at different ages, and different seasons. Okie dokie. And as cars became commodities and prices the prices continued to be reliable for what they were, Ford was there to deliver. But unfortunately, also the story that had a winning formula became a losing formula for the industry as time went on. It became a losing formula. And this is why. I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't tell you guys. Maybe I should let you guess, but I won't. I'll move it along for you. By 1920, the height of the Model T cars were a success, but his staff kept trying to persuade him. Now remember, by 1924, there were 10 million cars. It took 4 years to adjust his product to change with the market. The first car came out in 1908. Can you imagine selling the same identical product, not changing anything on that automobile? That was critical to make sure he remained competitive. He just hoarded it. If they want it, buy it. Make the price go lower. I'm going to win because I'm going to sell cheap and mass. Cheap and mass. 1924, they're saying, 10 million cars. So back in 1920, let's go back a few years. His staff is telling him, please, it's time to innovate. Keep the base, but let's come out with another product. Let's create a brand extension. Other people, they get it. They're developing their manufacturing line, their production line. But they're coming out with swankier cars. Remember, the Model T was a crank model. You had to turn it. Get out the car, the snow, the rain, doesn't matter. You got to crank it. It's night. You can't see. You got to crank it. It really wasn't the best friend. It was the best product at the time. But over time, it no longer became a solution for the customer's problem. And this is what happened. Henry Ford Company would end up being his undoing because he didn't listen to the market, because he didn't respond to change, because he didn't do his homework. He didn't do anything. He didn't listen to what customers were saying. He didn't pay attention to the new competitors in the marketplace. He just kept his idea. Remember, he's not an inventor. He's a mechanic. Not that one outthinks the other, but one is better at taking something built and rebuilding it versus taking something new. So instead of him taking his Model T Ford and saying, I am going to add a second product to it, I'm going to make it better, he said, no, leave it alone. I own 48% of the market. And guess what happened? When he left the company, the investors continued with it under the management of another Henry Leland. The company was renamed Chevrolet and then moved to another company, General Motors, as Ford persisted with his Model T. He kept going with his Model T. A new spring would begin a new industry. GM, General Motors, that's who they are, decided to offer a car just as reliable as the Model T, cost near the Model T, right in the competition, but instead of having a crank to start it up, it had an electric starter, and it also had 3 gears and other fancy features. In 1926, the Model T sales, they plummeted. In 1927, boy, I have to tell you, Ford discontinued his production and closed Highland Park. You get to 48% of the market, and then you lose it. Here's the saving grace. Ford had revolutionized the American industry in the production process. That was the aha. That was his genius. That was his contribution to the world. But he had no second product to take over from the Model T, which had remained largely unchanged for 14 years. And then this son, his own seed, comes along. And if it had not been for his son, he would have lost it all. The Ford company may have not been what it is today, have not continued. Even so, 75 years later, Fortune magazine still named Ford one of the businessmen of the century, actually beating out Bill Gates, as I mentioned. And Ford Motor Vehicles is now ran, isn't this wonderful, by his great-great-grandson. They do have a revenue of $178 billion. So I have to tell you, Ford almost did it again. Something about listening over there, huh? Almost being humble, tell you. Remember? Ford just, if it wasn't for the U.S. government stepping in and lending money, it took them a while to understand that the cars were not competitive with foreign cars, with Toyota and other cars around the world, and they had some challenges. They did create some organic growth. They bought out some other brands. Some of those brands are not as successful as they'd like, but right now they maintain steady, $178 billion. They own companies like Daimler, Land Rover, Lincoln, Mazda, Jaguar, so on, etc. And it's something really special. Ford Foundation continues to donate almost $500 million each year to reduce poverty. What a lesson to learn. A lot of things. For one, he came into his genius at 42. His persistence, which from 1880, correct, into 1908, 28 years, right? Almost 28 years? Yeah, somewhere in there. Tired. Kept going. Made some major mistakes. Bankruptcy, lost money. Then he figured out what he did. I'm good at taking what someone else has and making it better. And then he got so in love with it, he refused to change it and nearly lost everything. And a family member. It's good to have a family member. I have to tell you more about the Rockefeller family and how that even is. I tell you, family is interesting. Not all of them will come through for you. I won't say that, because that's not what they're supposed to do. They have their own journey. But there's always someone in that family line that could step in and they have some closeness to your authenticity and take your legacy to another level. It's good to listen. And learning is imperative, I have to tell you. It's good to listen. But, you got to learn. Yeah, you have to listen. But you got to have vision and pay close attention. And I'm going to end the show by reminding people you cannot use an excuse I didn't know you. It is so done and over. And if I can encourage you to do anything moving into a new year, and that is practice. You know, we say we're not going to do some things that sometimes hold us back. We really have to take a genuine interest and really focus to make sure that we're getting better. And that we're not, you know, I go down and thinking a lot of questions. I talk to a lot of small businesses, and I hear it. I know. Well, if you do better, you would do better. It's just that simple. So I'm going to encourage you to meditate, really think about what we just discussed about Henry Ford. Find yourself in it. See yourself in it. If you don't see yourself in it, make sure you don't see some of those areas. There's areas of success we can see ourselves in, but there's areas of being a little hard-headed, difficult, not listening, you know, not being close to our authentic self. I like this story. Henry Ford. Oh, yeah. What's the great saying of Sam Walton? Mostly everything I've done, I've copied from someone else, and then he's decided to make it better. Leaders are learners, learners are leaders. Well, I breathe, I hope that I'll be loving my footsteps. It's a great day. I'm hoping that everyone is warm because it's chilly around the world. In a lot of places, not all places, but absolutely in the U.S. And don't forget to check me out on Facebook, and don't forget to sign up for your free membership. We're doing 3 shows. We're doing a show today, tomorrow, and the next day, all on the second person for the first of the year. If no one told you they love you today, look aside, and I am absolutely serious from the bottom of my heart. I do in big old capital letters. I'm Tanya Jenkins. I'm your host. I'm your brand friend, and I'm your Chief Learning Officer. Be good. I'm good.